Alrighty, Manly defeat the Doggies. And don't forget, guys, 6 p.m. tonight. Hopefully turn your frown upside down. Manly defeat the Doggies, 24-22. And I have to admit, for a moment there, I thought the fairy tale was coming true. For a moment there, I dared to believe. Even though obviously I tipped Manly to win, I truly thought, wow, the Bulldogs have done it. Unfortunately, just that last 20 minutes, they ran out of puff. Like, genuinely, that's what it looked like to me. It looked like a team that had given so much. They had played with such intensity, with such line speed, won the contact against a much bigger footy side. They got to that last 20 or even last 15, and there was just like drop balls and, penalties given away and like fatigue type errors. Because it was, I tell you what, they came the closest whilst actually losing to winning. I don't think there's anyone that watched that game and thought, you know what, the Bulldogs didn't deserve to be where they are this year. You know what, the Bulldogs are still a mile away from finals footy. I think they did their club proud. I think they did their fans proud. I think it was an incredible performance by the Bulldogs. Unfortunately, they just ran out of steam. And leading into the game, been saying this for quite a while. I mean, I think we've all kind of been saying this, but sometimes, unfortunately, in finals games, when you have players like DCE and Turbo, a big moment arrives and they just take it. And that is where I hope that we see the Bulldogs get in a couple years with a few more either young fellas getting better or recruits coming in to almost combat those big moments. But that's pretty much what happened. A big moment arrived in finals footy. DCE and Turbo, with their experience, identified it, nailed it, won the game with an incredible try by Cooler. And that was all she wrote. I think obviously very disappointing for Dogs fans, but you can hold your head high. And what I like for Manly is that, look, Manly didn't play anywhere near as good as they should have. They were actually quite disappointing in regards to how good we know they can play. However, they hung in there, they stayed tough, they stayed in contact with the game, and they somehow found a way to get the win.
I cannot believe Canterbury turned that around after the last 2 weeks. I know there was players missing and all that sort of stuff, but when you build your entire season around your attitude around defence and everything, and then you concede 70 points in 2 weeks, get to finals footy for the first time in 8 years and just go, no, just pull it all together. I thought it was incredible. I thought Manly were going to absolutely give it to them, to be honest with you. And Canterbury Bulldogs, they've shown so many positives this year, and it'll be an interesting conversation. You look over the last few years, there's always been 3 teams that have jumped out of the 8, then the year after, always 2 of them miss out on the 8.
There's something different, Roo.
You know what? I know that I was wrong with teams before.
I know. I'm with you, mate. I'm with you. I don't know if I felt this way. I feel like something is different here. However, I know at the end of the season, I've looked at teams and gone, yep, for sure. They're in the 8 now. Yep. They're going to stay in there. I don't know. This dog side, the reason why I feel so strongly about the dog side is because on paper, they really shouldn't be doing what they're doing, and that's what's so impressive. Yeah,
and you have a look at last year, it was the Warriors, the Broncos, and the Knights. By some form of fucking miracle, the Knights were the only ones that held on to it. The other 2 dropped out. You look at it this year, it's Canterbury, Cowboys, and probably Manly is the other side that's really jumped up there.
I mean, Manly should be in there.
Manly should be, but they hadn't been. So history tells us 2 out of those 3 will miss next year. I hope it's not Canterbury.
Look, if they miss, I think it'll only be like a few steps. I can't see the Dogs doing what other teams have done where they've gone in the top 8 down to like bottom 4.
Yep.
However, famous last words. I don't know. I'm just a believer. I want to believe, you know.
I'm a believer too, yeah. I think they will. But once again, you look outside the top 8. Dragons will be better with another year under Flano. The Broncos surely go better. You'd like to think the Warriors will go better. Eels and Rabbitohs can't go worse, surely. It's going to be interesting, but I hope they have turned a corner.
Yeah, I'm a believer too, boys. I'm on board, and I think it just feels like there's something special. As you said, we would have said the same thing last year about the Warriors and whatnot, but something feels different about the Bulldogs. And at the end of the day, you've got Gus Gould steering the ship. His success rate's pretty damn good, and I just think the big factor of why I think the Bulldogs can be so happy with their season and so bullish about their future, it's just the lower grades. It's not this one-off squad that they'll lose some players, game players, whatever, and it's hard to do. Jersey Flag, under 21s, are in the grand final. That we know they've got some really highly touted footballers in there that we've spoken about throughout the year. They were runners-up in the SG Ball. They were minor premiers in the Harold match. There's junior and I mean, Jersey Fleet's more than juniors, but there's success in the lower grades. So they're building, and like, not to compare probably Bulldogs and Penrith, but why Penrith have been able to maintain success over a 4 or 5 year period is because they've always had players coming up. The Bulldogs have got the same. So there's no reason why they can't improve and go a week further or 2 weeks further next year.
I'll tell you what, if the Bulldogs fall out of the 8, if they fall, like, if they're 1 or 2 spots out of the 8, I won't look at that and be like, oh, it's a disaster. But if they, like, fall to like 12th, 13th, 14th, I don't think I'll ever be able to say going forward there's something different about this side. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll never be able to get to the end of the year and go, you know what, this team's definitely staying in the 8, because I agree with you. Everything points to this team being better this year rather than worse. They're not losing any players. Like, for example, you look at the Broncos. A, they've got an incredible roster, but B, they lost 3 of their key, like, big players. And so that's purely like, you can look at that and go, they should have already been finishing in the top 8 before they landed in the top 8, whereas the Bulldogs have done it where everyone said that they shouldn't be close to the top 8. For example, I don't think the Dragons will fall that far off next year either. And it's because they're doing it with a roster that should only progress to get better, unless obviously Ben Hunt leaves with the Dragons, which is a different story. Whereas, they're not losing a bunch of their key players. They're only probably going to be bolstering their squad by an extra year with this developing squad that's relatively young, but also some of these young, like, think about all the young guys right now that are in grand finals and that'll probably debut next year for the Bulldogs. That could be something great.
Yep.
However, you never know with rugby league. Could you, mate? It would suck so bad if the Doggies fell off again next year.
It'd be awful.
Oh, just don't want to think about it.
I don't think they will. I don't think they'll drop off because their defence has been so good. That's usually the hardest thing to sort out, where they were like a top 4 defence this year.
Well, they were number 1 before the last 2 games of the year.
Yeah, exactly. So, I feel like, it's been so much fun watching them this year and build. I think they'll be back next year as well.
God, I hope so.
What a game. Like, I just got to give credit to Serraldo's ability to execute a game plan and get everyone on board. Like, they dominated the Manly Sea Eagles for most of that match. And if they just had one extra player that could score, like that was a star that could score points, I reckon they nearly run away with it.
Well,
I really do.
It's just like, without the risk of pissing off Manly fans, I don't know if you blokes agree or not, I thought they were the better team and I thought they should have won. And they should have, could have, would have, they didn't. It's irrelevant now. But in terms of what I saw when they came, I thought they were the better team. But as you said, Kempy,
DC and Tommy,
the stars stood up when it mattered.
Yep, and I think that I agree with you, mate. Like, I know it's going to piss Manly fans off, but I think at the very least, for most of that game, as a collective, the Bulldogs executed a substantially better game plan. However, the Manly Sea Eagles did what they're probably not known for that much, is just hang in there. Just somehow find a way to hang in there. And then on top of that, they have the star players. And that's why I say, like, could you imagine this Bulldog side if they had just one more star that might be able to get points somewhere? It's just, tough loss for the Bulldogs. But I've got to give a lot of credit to Manly. As I said, like, what I liked about the Sharkies game last week, I know they ended up getting pumped by the Sharks, but there was a period there for the Manly Sea Eagles where they defended their line for probably 20 minutes straight. And I actually hadn't seen that all year from Manly. And I think it really put them in good stead for this week. Because, like, I just remember, like, basically watching the game yesterday going, like, watching it and being in focus for 10 minutes and then looking up at the scoreboard going, how are Manly still within a try of this side? Like, they shouldn't even be, it should be 13 plus right now. But they hung in there, they hung tough, and that's what, sides with stars do. They just manage to find a way to keep within striking distance, and they nailed it. And look, again, feel sorry for the Dogs, but it required something special, and Cooler provided that something special with speed on the edge.
And what I will say about Manly and saying, well, I thought Dogs were the better side and should have won, Tom Trbojevic, we could all see it. He was absolutely busted. Yeah. Their strike weapon, who we've always said, if Tommy's not there and Tommy isn't fit, Manly probably don't make the 8. He was there and he came with some good plays, but he was at about 50% of his capacity in this game. So you add that to it as well.
Yep.
Fair play to him.
I mean, there was a period there I'm like, should have they even played him?
Oh, I wonder if Jason Saab was fit and available and they had the options to be able to cover those spots. I wonder if they would have picked him.
Because I think he was a real passenger. He made errors. He let balls bounce for about 60 minutes of the game. And then when he kind of ticked into it's now or never, and that's when Tommy just went boom, put the foot down.
The one for me that I saw, I mean, you could see he was wounded, but to what capacity? It was the Stephen Crichton try, where he was getting across there, and you just saw him half take his foot off the boil because the play was to dive out with that injured shoulder and try and tap it dead.
Yep.
He didn't even look to do it. He's like, my shoulder cannot put up with going out like that and having two blokes come down on top of it. I'm gone.
Absolutely. So I wonder, like, if he just has an extra week, I wonder if that's just enough time to give him the confidence to come out and...
That's the question.
Yeah. Because if he's playing half the way he is now, there's no way they're going to win on the weekend.
And it's sort of, for us, can be from like every time Trbojevic returns from injury from a Supercoach point of view, do you buy him straight away or not? Yeah. I quite often find that I go, I won't go near him. He comes out that weekend, I go, I did the right thing. He's not sweet, he's not 100%. But then the weekend after that, he normally fucking explodes. I reckon he'll come out and have a very good game this weekend.
Just now that he's confident and he knows he can get through a game.
Through that first one.
Because it looked to me like the first 60 minutes, he was like, I just need to get through this game. And then once he realised, I'm actually going to get through it, and I think that try is a really good example of that because he's tossing up whether I can dive for this ball right now, fuck my shoulder, I'm gone, and basically Manly lose, or I can conserve it, and if I'm going to put my shoulder in jeopardy, at least it's to win the match.
Yeah.
And I think that's the decision he made in the last 20 of like, all right, I'm willing to put my shoulder in jeopardy right now, and he obviously got through it. I mean, the mental fortitude of the fact that he should not be out in that field. Mm-hmm. The fact that he is responsible for the match-winning play, obviously Cooler had to do heaps of work, but starts with Tommy in the middle, is absolutely incredible. But we'll talk about Bulldogs, we'll get to Manly, but thoughts on the overview of the show, mate? Game?
No, I completely agree with what you say about Turbo there. He reminded me a bit of a test batsman, just going, I'm going to spend...
Me too, I was thinking that.
45 minutes not getting out. Yeah, he said, I'm going to spend 45 minutes not getting out, and then any time after that I'm going to play some cricket. That's basically what he did. He just hung in there, made sure he was still there, looked after himself. Geez, every time they cut to him though, he looked like he was in so much pain, like so uncomfortable.
So, like constantly, like his shoulder in like that. But it's just crazy how we thought the same thing.
Kempy actually said pre-show that there's a bit of Ed Cowan about Tom Trbojevic.
Yeah. Or Canterbury-Bankstown in his last few years with the Warriors.
That's good.
Very similar.
Should have let him explain it.
Yeah, but look, hey, they got the job done. You know, the Bulldogs completed higher. The Manly had more errors, but you're spot on. Like that's what you got your big name players there for. When it counts, they found a way to get the result. But game of the round, maybe one of the games of the year as well.
Mate, it was such a good game. I got to say, for all of that praise for Bulldogs, the one area they've got to clean up into the next year, and I don't know, maybe it's a part of their DNA, so they're willing to take the hit for it. The stupid niggle penalties, like the raking of the ball, the pushing a bloke after he's going to get up and you pull him back down, like all of those little things like that. Again, maybe Serraldo looks at that and says, because we want to be in their face and put them off their game, we are willing to cop those penalties. However, I was watching the game, so Bulldogs are just dominating. And then basically the Bulldogs went 3 dumb penalties in a row. And these weren't just 50-50, 6 again calls. These were just dumb decisions. They went 3 stupid penalties in a row. Manly score purely off 3 stupid penalties from the Bulldogs, completely erasing the first 15 minutes where they were winning the contest. So basically what happened was the Dogs come out, they win that first 15 minutes, 3 stupid penalties, Manly score, they're basically even then for the next whatever. And so, you're erasing 15 minutes of pressure just with silly penalties.
I think 2 of them were, and I praised him earlier in the show, but we'll read Marnie 2 strips back-to-back. You're just going, mate, what are you doing?
And Burton pulling Olakwatu back to the ground. You're just going, oh, bro. Silly penalties.
As you said, though, quite often on those, they flash up to Serraldo. He doesn't seem overly concerned. Maybe he's just got a great poker face. Yeah. He doesn't seem as concerned as I know what I was sitting on the lounge.
I know what Bellyache could be doing.
Yeah, 100%.
Looking ahead what he's saying. As I said, maybe in his eyes, he's like, A, we're testing the ref. B, maybe we burn one of their challenges. Like, he's such an intelligent operator. I'd be very shocked if it's not intentional. I'd be very shocked. And so maybe their trade-off is we're going to niggle, we're going to get in their face. Like you had bloody Jake Trbojevic stepping up to bloody Stephen Crichton. I'll tell you what, Critter, you don't want to mess with a guy that's as happy as Jake Trbojevic. Those guys are psychos. Once they snap, start killing people.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's how niggly they were in the wrestle, in the contest. Critter is like giving it to Ben Trbojevic, so much so that Jake Trbojevic is pushing Critter. And it may be purely a genuinely dogs of war mentality of like, you aren't our friend. This is a battle. We're here to dominate you and we're going to get in your head no matter what. It genuinely might be a tactic. I just think that sometimes, and I think it hurt them in this game, especially in the end, there was a few niggly penalties that they didn't have to give away. I think it was a swinging arm from Reid Marnie that gave them a penalty that eventually Manly went on to win.
I did love that moment when Critter was going after Burbo. Jake came over and he was sort of like pushing his chest, sort of calm down. And Critter didn't even look at him.
Wasn't even looking.
Critter was just eyeballing Burbo. I was sitting there going, fuck, if I was Ben, I'd be fucking shitting myself right now. He was just completely zoned in. He's such a good leader.
They are. It is funny though. I am starting to see a lot of anti Bulldogs rhetoric in comment sections and that, which is part of the course. But they just that's the way they play. Is in your face, niggle, put you off your game, all that.
But like, if comment sections existed when Canterbury have been successful previously, it would have looked exactly the same.
Oh, yeah.
When they're at their best, they're assholes.
Listen, man. Win within the rules. It's that simple.
100%.
Win within the rules.
Yeah.
But I did think there was a few things that cost them in the game. But we'll go to Bulldogs and then we'll get to Manly. What I found most impressive is everything that you just said, Tim, in regards to guys coming through. But they played a final style of rugby league. Like, how often do we talk about there are certain teams that are great during the season, they get into finals footy and they just don't know how to play that finals footy. Yes, they lost. But you can't tell me that they weren't playing at a finals intensity that game.
And you know who I thought set the tone? Matt Burton. First 3 touches, just ran the football.
Yep. And that would have been a directive from Serraldo.
Yep.
And just like, I feel for Jerry because he obviously made that error at the end, but like all the guys that you thought when they got to like Connor Tracy, for example, was outstanding. I thought he was really good. Like all these guys that had big in seasons, you wondered how they would react to finals footy. I thought they all reacted pretty well. It's almost the vice versa of, you look at Sharkies and there were guys that were really nervous. And granted, they're in a different situation. They've been in a finals 3 times. There's a lot of pressure. Whereas I didn't look at that Bulldogs side. They did not look like a nervous side in the first half. They looked like a confident side, which is pretty impressive.
Very impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, the ones for me, boys, one of the great head-to-head duels between Viliame Kikau and Hamole Olakuatu. And then a lot of it wasn't necessarily them going directly at each other as such, but just 2 players where, like Viliame Kikau obviously had his big moments at Penrith, but that was in a star-studded team, no finals obviously last year, and he got his opportunity this season. He just put them on his back and he just said, I'm bigger, stronger, more athletic, I can do this all. They couldn't tackle him, and Hamole on the flip side was the same. He just went, all right, now's my time to shine, my team need me. Their battle was one of the greats.
Yeah, it was incredible. And what I loved about it is Olakuatu was losing the battle initially after beating Kikau last game convincingly. And so Kikau comes out, gets one over Olakuatu. I think Olakuatu of a couple of years ago probably just lets the game slip away from him.
Yep.
He goes, nah, no way. So much so that Olakuatu actually won the VB Hard Index.
Did he?
Tell me if, like, Olakuatu winning the Hard Earned Index, that's mirroring up. That's what usually battlers win. Guys that don't have as much talent as Olakuatu. Guys that the only reason they're in NRL is because they work hard. You match that up with Olakuatu's natural ability and you've got an absolute weapon on your hands.
I love that these two could just rely on being the most naturally gifted guys in the field. And like I look at, as you said, Olakuatu, the amount of work he gets through is incredible. But Kikau, the way that he's added this passing game, it just makes him such a threat. Like he's as dangerous out the back as he is as the front man there. And like you look at the way that the Penrith Panthers used him years ago, like he was the guy to get momentum. But then all of a sudden it's like, oh fuck, he's kind of playing fullback at the same too. So I'm on the left edge. It's crazy.
That sliding out the back for the Kiraz try, just the tip on. You're not allowed to do that at that size.
When you're that big, you shouldn't be able to do that. You shouldn't be able to do that. What impressed me the most about Kikau is his defence.
Yeah.
Because I remember watching Jimmy Graham talking about how, like, a lot of people question the size of the Bulldogs pack, but they got Preston and they got Kikau. And I understand where he's coming from with that. But the problem is, in defence, usually Kikau doesn't use his size. Like, usually Kikau uses his size in attack. However, Jimmy Graham clearly has seen the Bulldogs training more than I have, he was using his size in defence. He was winning contact. He was getting line speed. He was making sure he was kick chasing. He was, as soon as Tom Trbojevic caught the ball, he was down there. It was a special game from kick out. Here's another special game. So on one side, you've got kick out, who in attack, and now obviously in defence too, but in attack is just a powerhouse. On the other side, you got Jacob Preston, 43 tackles, 0 misses on the edge. 43 tackles and 0 misses. We're not talking about a guy in the middle that has tiny spaces behind him that other people can help him with. We're talking about on an edge. That is in a finals game against a team, Manly, who have some of the best edge attack in the competition. Incredible defence from Preston. And I tell you what, like these two going forward, you're looking at least another 4 or 5 years together. Could be one of the most devastating edge back rowing pairing in the competition.
And I really hope Preston gets a State of Origin opportunity over the next few years.
He's made for it. He is made for it. I tell you what, you're not lacking in depth in the bloody edges, that's for sure.
He's one of those guys, if you were injured or suspended, you gave him an opportunity, Christ, you'd be nervous about getting that jersey back.
Oh, yeah, he would never let you down. Never let you down.
Never.
And he's getting better and better in attack. His combinations are getting better. His line running is getting better. He's another guy I want to give a massive rap to, Toby Sexton. We're talking about it, and sorry, Titans fans, but like, this is how poorly Titans recruitment has been over the last few years. The whole Ash Taylor situation happens. Then they get Tanner Boyd. They turn him into like a hooker or a utility. Then they get Fogarty out of Queensland Cup. Fogarty kills it. We go, wow, how good's this? Then Fogarty so they re-sign Fogarty for a few years. Sexton comes in after Fogarty gets injured. They then essentially say, Sexton's the man for us going forward. So Fogarty gets released. Then Sexton has like half a year that's not that great. And they move him on as well. And now Sexton has his team. He led a Bulldogs team into the final series. And I know I'm putting the boot in, but it just shows you how, the Titans need to be better at this. The fact that they're allowing guys like Sexton to go to the Bulldogs and lead them to a finals berth, it's poor.
Yeah, especially when, Sexton was the guy coming through all the grades. They absolutely loved him. It was, once again, it's very similar to the Ash Taylor situation. They held on to him, but they just never utilised him properly.
Fogarty left, took Raiders to a final series. Sexton left, took the Bulldogs to a final series.
His shot kicking games impressed me so much this season.
You know what's crazy? Even at the Titans, he had the most repeat sets of any half in the competition.
And we spoke about that a heap.
And he's shown it. He's backed it up at the Doggies. It's been brilliant this season. Unfortunately for the new dropout rules and the getting the ball back, like it'd be twice as valuable if they scrap that. But his short kicking game immense.
Scrap the dropout rule. Like seriously, it is rubbish. It is rubbish. But yes, Toby Sexton, and the good thing is like he's just going to get better. He's going to get more confident. His combinations are going to get like the Bulldogs in a position where he won't break the bank. At the moment, granted, I'm sure there are a lot of clubs sniffing around going, okay, what can we do here? But like, I think he's 23 years old. Could you get his age up, please, Matty? And I don't think it gets enough praise, the fact that 23. So the Bulldogs were going okay, but everything was based off their defence, like everything. Sexton comes in, and all of a sudden they go on the run that they went on and make the finals. Like it really does line up when Sexton comes in, and I know he's not on the side anymore, but like. When Hutchinson came back in, he did struggle. It just shows you how good Sexton has been for this Bulldogs side.
He's taken him to a new level. There's no denying that. Yep.
For sure. I thought Skelton had some really good moments.
I thought he was great.
Yep.
Yep. Just and a rare win for the Tigers as well. How good was that to see? No, honestly, he was ran over 200 metres, had a try, nearly had another try, a little bit of a loose carry at the end there, but I thought he was very, very impressive. And obviously the Fox wasn't playing, but I don't know that they actually lost too much given the way that Skelton played on the weekend. I thought he was really, really good.
Yep, he was one of their best for sure. And just quickly back on Sexton, 19 tackles, 0 misses. Fuck, that's good for a finals game. Yeah. Feel sorry for Sherry. He's had such a good year. Obviously had that error at the end there. I think there was a lot more leading up to it than that error that cost them the game. Well, I think they were already behind. So, Kiraz as well, I thought he was pretty solid. I think he had an error though as well. But outside of that, I think the Bulldogs should be extremely proud of what they've done. There's so much to build on next year. There's so much to be excited for. Can't wait to see what happens. And obviously we'll do the season review. We'll go in depth of what's happened throughout the season. Now, onto the Sea Eagles. For me, this was all about, and we always spoke about size and, Bulldogs' ability to go with the bigger packs. And what was so incredible about the Bulldogs, they did that for the first stint of that 20 minutes that we talked about with Manly. They did that. They went with the big boppers. Their line speed, their contact, they won all that. The second stint with Lodge and Paseka, that changed the game for me, in my opinion. They came back on and completely got the momentum back. And it's exactly what the Manly Sea Eagles needed, which was their big boppers. That was their point of difference, to just wrangle momentum back. And I thought Paseka especially was incredible in the second stint.
Yeah, Paseka, stint number 2 was enormous. It wasn't that long ago. It was 2 years ago or so that I was looking at Paseka going, I just don't know if he's ever actually going to reach his potential. The last 2 years, and he's had a few injuries in that time that could have derailed him, and he's just, week on week, he just gets better and better.
It's going to be exciting. He can just continue this form and understanding that now there's a base level to his game. There's a minimum that is expected of him. That's how you can build packs around guys like Paseka. He is genuinely has enough natural talent for a pack to be built around him. And
he was so destructive on the weekend. You can get good minutes out of him, 51 minutes in that game. He single-handedly, he has the ability in those stints to change games, as we just saw on the weekend. Like a similar ability to what Sof Solomona has at the Storm, where when he's on and no one can stop him, he can change a game and just completely turn the momentum of the game. Paseka can do that exact same thing.
Yeah, and so the good thing is he's locked up long-term at the club. They can build around him. We've already spoken about it, but it really was a Tom Trbojevic DCE play. But that Cooler run, what a moment for Cooler. 2 weeks ago, couldn't get a spot in the side. Gets put into the finals footy. For once in the whole game, get some good ball. Because that's one area where Manly have never used Cooler the way they should use him. They very rarely give him the ball he deserves and what's good for him with his speed. And there was a period they did, but a lot of it had to do with essentially getting the ball to Saab outside him to score the points. So in the perfect moment, at the perfect time, he just gets a millimetre of space. He doesn't just gas Sexton. Obviously, Sexton was cover tackling, so it wasn't his man. He throws the dummy, then realises that Connor Tracy has actually landed perfectly in regards to positioning, because if Connor Tracy is 5 metres further back, that gives Kohler time to make a decision. Kohler's reaction time to put footwork on and step was milliseconds, and he nails it. He had about, what do you reckon, 30 centimetres to work in, because if he steps too hard to the left, he gets tackled from behind. He angles it perfectly, loses a boot, scores a try. Incredible.
When you think about at the start of the season, Kohler, I remember having conversations with people that wanted Turbo to play centre to try and make sure he was sweet. The argument was Kohler has to be the fullback. He went from that to 3 weeks ago not making the side to scoring the winning play in a sudden death game.
Yeah.
And with all due respect to these guys, at the start of the season, I thought Tommy Talau went there almost for a bit of a career lifeline, I guess you could say.
Depth signing even.
Lehigh Opawade, most people didn't know who Lehigh Opawade was at the start of the year. If his last name was Smith, no one would have known who he was at the start of the season. And Kohler couldn't get into the side over those guys, and then you just get him early ball. And credit to Ben Trbojevic on that play. A lot of guys would have held that too long.
Yeah, and try to draw him past.
Just draw him past. He just picked you. Just went,
give him the ball.
This guy needs the football here.
He's quick.
And it's it's one of those passes that when you get it right, no one notices. When you get it wrong, though, you're an idiot.
Yeah, pass too early and all that kind of stuff.
He just got it perfectly right.
Incredible moment. I have to say, unfortunately, Lehigh Opawade had a night to forget. He'll learn a lot from that. I think that it'll be a good, heading into this week, I'm assuming he will. Seabold will have a conversation with Opawade and be like, what was your preparation like, mate? Leading into this game, was it the same as every other week? And if it was, then maybe you need to prepare a little bit different for finals footy. Did you change things? Because he was really off, unfortunately. And he's had such a good year, Lehigh.
I reckon he'll bounce back with a big game.
Yeah, I think he will too. He's way too classy, way too talented, but it really did hurt. The amount of times he got taken out and, the errors and that, it really did hurt the Manly Sea Eagles.
One thing that I do appreciate in this game, he had nothing go right for him. He never stopped trying, though.
Yeah.
I think it says a lot about him.
Well, he had multiple errors and then he made that try, the try assist that he had, which was very dubious, but it's one of those 50-50 ones that can go either way. If he didn't have that youthful confidence to just keep trying, they don't get that try.
Yeah. And there's, everyone has bad games. There's guys that will hide away during bad games, and there's guys that will just go, fuck it, I'm not afraid to make the next mistake and try and win it.
It might actually make the game even worse. However, at least they're trying to do something about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, who else stood out for you, Jimmy?
Mate, we've covered the majority of them. We've covered Tolotau Kola, Ches, good to see, or Olakwatu, obviously. Good to see Lukey Brooks, undefeated in finals football.
Brooksy, 100% record weight.
Yeah.
Just quickly. Scrum play.
With that scrum play. Oh,
cracker.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
How do you defend it?
Yep.
So nice.
Because if Critter gets too tight to his man, then it will be the only way that Critter defends that is if he's bad at defence. Because you have to get your spacing right. Because if he gets too tight, then they can just hit that other player on overs, and it's just a pass to the winger and it's a try. Incredible play.
There's nothing better than finals time, and you just see, whether it's the coaches come up with it or players that have just... A play's come to mind, they've just had in the back pocket all season, and then you unleash it come finals, and that was one of them.
Oh, mate.
Apparently they didn't nail it once during the week. They didn't get it right once at training.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, that's what Trey Evans said.
Jeez.
That's incredible.
Fuck, it's a good pass by Luke Brooks, though.
Oh, no, Looker has to be in the
space.
space.
Throw the ball into space and just trust the guy's going to be there. And incredible. And if Luke Brooks gets it wrong and they lose this game, can you imagine how he would have got it absolutely heaped on him for that?
Yeah, and also, if he's thrown into space like that, there's a very good chance that Critter picks it up and just goes along the field.
Takes a bit of guts, given it didn't go right at training once all week.
Especially as well, it took me back to the Melbourne Storm 2012 grand final, Cooper Cronk, Billy Slater, a very similar play. These guys have been living in each other's pockets for 10 years. He's known Ches for 8 months.
Yeah. Just quickly, Olakwatu, 11 tackle breaks.
He was awesome.
11 tackle breaks. Matt Lodge, 8 tackle breaks. That's the bloody good knock. If I'm being critical, I think DCE for a lot of the game, I think he could have been a bit better. I felt like there was opportunities for him to really wrangle the game in and shift momentum. His kicking game was good, but I think I've seen better from DCE of being his ability to kind of, and this is nitpicking because obviously DCE, we know how good he can be. I'm expecting probably a better performance from DCE over the whole 80. He still won them the game with his incredible play, but I just think across the 80 he could have just been a little bit better. Not saying he was bad at all, just to DCE's level.
I think a bit of a turning point in this game was when Ches sort of grabbed Josh Curran when he was going at
wasn't that
very out of the blue, but I feel like it gave all the Manly boys a little bit of a lift.
To see the captain that doesn't usually get involved in that.
To see, I was going to say, the politician, that's probably not fair. But to see DCE just grab their front row and take him to the ground, I think the rest of Manly sort of got a bit of a lift off that.
Yeah, absolutely. It was the Warriors versus the Roosters where they had hired Freddie.
Yes.
Changed the course of the game.
Owen Guttenbeil.
So look, are the Manly Seagulls too bashed up? We'll see. But they found a way to win, and that's what good teams do. Alrighty,